Hey there! Want more fairy tales? Click subscribe.
Once upon a time, in a faraway kingdom covered in snow, there lived a gentle queen. One cold winter morning, she sat by her window, sewing a warm robe for the king. The snow outside sparkled like tiny diamonds. As she stitched, she pricked her finger with the needle, and a few drops of bright red blood fell onto the white snow on the windowsill. She looked at the red on the white and smiled softly. "I wish I could have a child," she whispered, "with skin as white as snow, lips as red as roses, and hair as black as this window frame." Months passed, and the queen's wish came true. She gave birth to a baby girl who was exactly as she had imagined. Skin so fair it looked like fresh snow, lips as red as roses, and hair dark as night. The king was overjoyed. They named her Snow White because she was as pure and beautiful as winter itself. But happiness didn't last long. The queen became ill and soon passed away, leaving the king heartbroken and Snow White motherless. Time went on, and the king eventually married again. The new queen was beautiful, so beautiful that people whispered about her looks across the land. But her heart was cold, and her pride was endless. She cared only about being the most beautiful woman in the world. In her grand room stood a tall, shining mirror. No ordinary mirror, but a magical one. Every day she would stand before it and ask,
"Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest one of all?"
The mirror always replied, "You, my queen, are the fairest of them all." These words pleased her more than gold or jewels. She smiled proudly each time she heard them. Meanwhile, little Snow White grew up, kind, cheerful, and full of life. Her beauty began to blossom, not just on the outside, but in her heart as well. Everyone who met her loved her for her gentle nature and warm smile. The queen began to notice that people looked at Snow White differently. Their eyes shone when they saw her. They whispered, "She's growing into such a lovely young girl." The queen's heart filled with quiet anger. She tried to hide it, but jealousy crept in like a shadow. Every time she saw Snow White, she felt a sting, a reminder that someone younger and fairer was living under the same roof. One morning, she stood before the mirror, wearing her finest gown. Her lips curled into a confident smile. She took a deep breath and asked, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest one of all?" The mirror stayed silent for a moment, longer than usual. The queen's heart began to fade. Then the voice finally spoke.
"You are fair, O Queen, it's true, but Snow White is fairer than you."
The queen's heart skipped a beat. "What did you
What
say?"
did you
she
say?
demanded. The mirror repeated, "Snow White beyond the hills, with skin so pure and heart so kind, she is now the fairest one of all." The queen's hands trembled, her face grew pale. The air in the room felt heavy. "No," she whispered, "that can't be true." She stepped closer to the mirror, staring at her reflection. Her beautiful face twisted with anger. The mirror had never lied before, and she knew it wasn't lying now. The queen could no longer stand it. Every time she looked at Snow White, her jealousy grew stronger. No matter how many jewels she wore or how much makeup she used, she still heard the mirror's words echoing in her mind. "Snow White is fairer than you." Finally, she made a terrible decision. One morning, she called for the royal hunter, a strong man who worked for her in the palace. He entered the throne room, bowing low before the queen. "You called for me, your majesty?" he asked. The queen's eyes were cold as ice. "Yes," she said softly. "There is something I want you to do." She handed him a small, empty box. "Take the princess deep into the forest," she ordered. "Make sure no one follows you, and there you must kill her." The hunter looked up in shock. "Kill her, my queen? The princess?" "Yes," the queen hissed.
Yes, she has become too beautiful, ooh, too dangerous. I never want to see her face again.
"Bring me her heart in this box as proof." The hunter's hands shook as he held the box. His mouth went dry, but he could not refuse the queen. Her voice was sharp, her eyes burning with anger. He bowed again and whispered, "As you wish, my queen." That afternoon, he took Snow White into the forest. She followed him happily, believing it was just a walk. Birds sang above them, and the sun shone through the tall green trees. After a while, Snow White noticed the hunter's face. He looked pale and worried. "Is something wrong?" she asked gently. He stopped walking. His hands were trembling. He looked at her, this sweet, innocent girl, and couldn't do it. Tears filled his eyes. "Oh, dear princess," he said in a broken voice, "forgive me. The queen ordered me to kill you." Snow White gasped. "Kill me? But why?" "She's jealous of your beauty. She wants your heart as proof that you're gone." Snow White began to cry.
Please don't hurt me. If you let me go, I promise I'll run far away. I'll never come back.
The hunter dropped his knife and shook his head. "I can't harm you," he said softly. "You are too kind, too pure. Go, child, run. Run deep into the forest and never return to the castle." Snow White nodded, tears on her cheeks. She turned and ran as fast as she could through the dark woods. The hunter stood there for a moment, breathing heavily. He knew the queen would be furious if he came back empty-handed. So, to fool her, he hunted a wild boar and took its heart instead. He placed it in the box and carried it back to the castle. When he gave it to the queen, she smiled a cruel smile. At last, she said, "Snow White is gone." Snow White ran as fast as her feet could carry her. The forest was deep and wild, and the further she went, the darker it became. The tall trees seemed to reach the sky, their branches twisting like giant hands. The wind howled through the leaves, and strange sounds echoed all around her. The snap of twigs, the hoot of an owl, the rustle of something unseen. She tripped over roots and fell, but she quickly got back up. Her heart was pounding. She didn't know where she was going. She only knew she had to keep running. Every shadow looked like danger. Every noise made her jump. "Please, someone help me," she whispered through her tears. But there was no one to hear her. The forest felt endless. The sun was gone and the moonlight barely touched the ground. Hours passed. Her dress was torn, her hands were scratched, and her shoes were muddy. She was cold, hungry, and tired. Finally, when she could run no more, she sank down by a tree and began to cry. "What will I do? Where can I go?" she sobbed. Then, through her tears, she saw something in the distance, a small flicker of light. Wiping her eyes, she stood up and followed it. The closer she got, the clearer it became. It was a little house, tucked away in a clearing with warm yellow light shining through the windows. Snow White stepped closer and knocked gently. No one answered. She pushed the door open and peeked inside. Everything was tiny. Tiny chairs, tiny plates, tiny cups, and 7 small beds lined up in a row. "How strange," she said softly. "Who could live here?" The house was neat but cozy, like it belonged to someone who cared for it. Snow White was so hungry that she couldn't resist tasting a little bit of food from each of the 7 plates. Then she took a sip from each cup of water. Her stomach finally felt full, but she was so sleepy she could barely keep her eyes open. She tried the first bed, too hard. The second, too soft. The third, too small. One by one, she tested them all until she found the 7th bed. It felt just right. She curled up under the little blanket, closed her eyes, and fell into a deep sleep. Later that night, the door opened. 7 little men stepped inside, each carrying a small lantern. They had beards, work boots, and dusty clothes. They had just returned from their day's work in the mountains. "Hey," said one of them, looking around, "who's been sitting in my chair?" "And who's been eating from my plate?" said another. "Someone's been sleeping in my bed, and look, she's still here." The dwarfs gathered around the sleeping girl. The lantern light fell softly on her face, and they gasped.
She's beautiful.
She doesn't look dangerous.
They decided not to wake her. Instead, they quietly shared the remaining beds and went to sleep. When Snow White opened her eyes the next morning, she was surprised to see 7 tiny faces looking down at her. They had kind eyes, long beards, and round cheeks. Each of them wore colorful clothes and small hats. "Who are you?" she asked softly, sitting up in the little bed.
We're the 7 Dwarfs. We work in the mountains all day, digging for gold and gems.
Snow White smiled back. "Oh, so this is your house. I'm sorry I came in without asking. I was lost, hungry, and tired. I didn't mean to bother you." The dwarfs looked at each other and nodded. "It's all right," said the oldest one kindly. "You can stay with us if you like, but there's one rule. Keep our home neat and tidy. Cook, clean, and make it cozy. In return, we'll keep you safe." Snow White's face lit up.
Thank you. I promise I'll do my best.
And she did. Every morning, after the dwarfs left for work, she would sweep the floors, wash the dishes, and cook warm meals. She sang as she worked, her sweet voice filling the little house. The birds and rabbits from the forest came to listen at the windows. When evening came, the dwarfs returned, tired but cheerful. They loved coming home to a clean house, good food, and Snow White's kind smile. They laughed, told stories, and sang together by the fire. For the first time in a long time, Snow White felt safe. She had a home and a family that cared for her. But far away, back in the castle, the wicked queen still stood before her magic mirror every morning. She had not stopped asking her question.
Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest one of all?
For many days, the mirror gave the same answer. "You, my queen, are the fairest of them all." The queen smiled proudly until one day the mirror's voice changed. "You are fair, O queen, it's true, but Snow White, beyond the hills with the 7 dwarfs, is fairer than you." The queen's face turned white with shock.
What? Snow White lives? The hunter lied to me!
Her anger boiled like fire. "So she thinks she can hide from me," she hissed. "No one can be fairer than me. I will finish this myself." That night, she locked herself in her room, pacing back and forth. Her mind was full of dark ideas. Then she smiled, a cruel, wicked smile. "If Snow White is alive," she whispered, "then I shall find her, and she will never escape again." She went to her secret room filled with potions, powders, and strange tools. There she worked for hours, mumbling to herself until she came up with a wicked plan. "I will go to her in disguise," she whispered, "and she will never recognize me." The queen dressed herself as an old peddler woman with wrinkled skin, a bent back, and a basket full of colorful ribbons and laces. She crossed the mountains and came to the dwarf's cottage just as Snow White was alone.
Lovely laces for sale. Beautiful ribbons for pretty young girls.
Snow White peeked through the window. The woman looked harmless. Forgetting the dwarf's warning not to open the door, she stepped outside.
Oh, what pretty laces!
Said Snow White, smiling. "Let me tie one for you," said the old woman sweetly.
You'll look
even more beautiful. Snow White turned around as the woman wrapped the lace around her waist, but the queen pulled it tighter and tighter until Snow White couldn't breathe. She fell to the ground, fainting. "Now," she whispered, "you'll never be fairer than me." She hurried away before anyone saw her. That evening, the dwarfs came home and found Snow White lying still on the floor. They quickly untied the lace, and she gasped for air. Slowly, she opened her eyes. "Oh, Snow White," they cried, "that must have been your stepmother. Never open the door to strangers again." Snow White promised she wouldn't. But the queen's mirror soon told her the truth again. Snow White was still alive. Furious, the queen shouted, "Then I will make sure she dies this time," she growled. She prepared a beautiful red and white apple. One half was safe, but the red side was poisoned. Then she dressed as a simple farmer woman and went back into the forest. When she reached the house, she called out, "Fresh apples for sale." Snow White opened the window just a little. "I can't take anything from strangers," she said. "That's all right," said the woman sweetly. "Here, I'll cut it in half. You eat the red side, I eat the white. See, it's safe." The trick worked. Snow White took a bite of the red side, and at once she fell to the ground. The queen smiled.
Now I am truly the fairest of them all.
This time when the dwarfs came home, no ribbon, no comb, no medicine could wake Snow White. She didn't move. She didn't breathe. Days passed, then weeks, and still Snow White did not wake. The dwarves were heartbroken. They couldn't bear to bury her in the cold ground, so they made a clear glass coffin and placed it on a hill covered with flowers. Inside, Snow White looked as if she were only sleeping, her cheeks still rosy, her lips still red. Animals from the forest came to watch over her. Birds sang softly in the trees, and deer stood guard nearby. The dwarves visited every day, hoping she might open her eyes again, but she never did. One bright morning, a prince who was riding through the forest came upon the hill. When he saw the glass coffin, he stopped in surprise. "Who is this beautiful girl?" he asked the dwarves. "She is Snow White," they said sadly, "the most kind and gentle girl we've ever known. The queen hated her for being too beautiful and tried to destroy her. Now she sleeps forever." The prince looked at Snow White for a long time. "I have never seen such goodness in a face before," he said quietly.
"Please, let me take her with me to my castle. I will keep her safe and honor her memory."
The dwarves, seeing how sincere he was, finally agreed. As the prince's men lifted the coffin to carry it away, the movement made the piece of poisoned apple slip from Snow White's throat. She coughed once, softly, and then her eyes fluttered open. "Where am I?" she whispered. The dwarves gasped, and the prince rushed to her side. "You're safe now," he said, his eyes shining with joy. You've been asleep for a very long time." When Snow White stood and smiled, the forest seemed to come alive again. The birds sang, the wind danced through the trees, and even the sunlight felt brighter. The prince asked gently, "Will you come with me to my castle? I would be honored to make you my queen." Snow White nodded with tears in her eyes. "Yes, I will." Soon the wedding day arrived. The prince and Snow White invited everyone, including the 7 dwarves who sat proudly in the front row. Music filled the castle halls, laughter echoed, and joy spread everywhere. But far away, the wicked queen stood before her mirror once again. "Mirror, mirror on the wall," she said proudly, "who is the fairest of them all?" The mirror glowed, and the voice replied, "You, my queen, are fair, but the new young queen, Snow White, is fairer than you." The queen froze. Her face turned pale. "Alive?" she cried. "How can that be?" Her anger burned hotter than ever, and she decided to go to the wedding in disguise to see herself. When she entered the grand hall, she saw Snow White, alive, smiling and radiant. The queen's heart sunk. Everyone turned to stare at her. Snow White recognized her at once. The prince's guard stepped forward, and the queen's disguise fell away. The truth was clear to all. That day, the queen faced the punishment she had earned for her cruelty and lies. Her reign of envy ended forever. And as the sun set over the castle, Snow White and her prince began their new life, surrounded by love, laughter, and peace.